In this series of videos, I'm going to go through some of the essays that I have written on mindfulness and depression, neuroscience, etc. So I'm going to go through the essay, I'm going to go through the paragraphs, and then I will open it up and try and flesh it out a little bit. And hopefully this will be useful for you if you are practicing meditation, or if you're a teacher, or maybe you're suffering from depression or mood disorder, and this content will help you to understand the process, what underlies the depression and how mindfulness can be helpful. Okay, so I'm going to start with this topic. It's called the differential activation hypothesis, and this is a really useful thing to understand when we're working with mindfulness, and mindfulness in particular for depression, such as mindfulness-based cognitive therapy. Okay, so let me read. The differential activation hypothesis, introduced by Teasdale in 1988, Teasdale is one of the people who created mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, is a psychological theory that helps explain why some individuals are more prone to depression, especially after experiencing stressful or negative life events. According to this hypothesis, certain negative mood states can trigger the reactivation of previously held negative thinking patterns. These patterns are often established during past depressive episodes, making individuals more vulnerable to relapse. Okay. So a person has a difficult life event. Maybe they lose their job, or they a breakup of a relationship, and at that time it's a very difficult time, and they have very difficult experience of being in their body, and also they have very difficult thoughts that come up, such as I'm not good enough, or I'll never be happy again. And these thoughts are very powerful, and they kind of get coded into the body-mind. It's a very strong thinking process that sort of gains some traction. Now then the person, over time may recover from their depression, but those thought patterns have become ingrained. And then when the person suffers from low mood, maybe they're tired, maybe they're having problems at work, or maybe they've got a hangover, or something that gives them low mood, or simply, they wake up on the wrong side of the bed. It's just one of those days. The skies are grey. And suddenly what we see is that those old thought patterns that were developed, or that were sort of locked in during those earlier periods of depression, suddenly those thoughts arise, and you're tired, and then you have the thought, I'll never be happy again. So you see this connection between an earlier stage experience of depression and then later an experience simply of low mood. I have clients in therapy and in mindfulness who talk about the kind of things that their parents would say to them when they were younger, such as, you'll never be good at this, or, you're not enough, or whatever it might be. And they find that as adults, when they're tired, it's those thoughts that come. When they're having a difficult time, it's those sort of embedded during childhood. Those are the thought processes that pop up when they're experiencing low mood. So mindfulness can be very helpful at working with this stuff. Okay, during difficult events, particularly the initial historical event that triggered the first experience of depression, destructive thought processes related to the event, such as I am not good enough or I am worthless, get coded into the body-mind. These thoughts can then resurface later, even when simply feeling a low mood. Essentially, the hypothesis suggests that the more a person has been depressed in the past, the more easily their brain can slip back into a depressive state when faced with stress. Okay, so the more you experience depression, the more those thoughts become embedded, the easier it becomes to go back there. This is also to do with neuroplasticity, the sense that through experience, the brain adapts and shapes itself. It really shapes itself to increase the efficiency of its most utilized functions. So if you're having difficult thoughts regularly about yourself, it's very easy to become better at that. You become an Olympic class worrier or ruminator. So that's where the problem lies. Okay, so as far as I remember, medication for treating depression, it becomes less effective with each recurrence of depression. But interestingly, mindfulness-based cognitive therapy or mindfulness practice has been demonstrated to be as effective as the number of recurrences increase. Okay, mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, or MBCT, is a powerful intervention that directly addresses the mechanisms outlined by the differential activation hypothesis. MBCT combines traditional cognitive therapy techniques with mindfulness strategies, teaching individuals to become more aware of their thoughts and feelings in a non-judgmental way. By cultivating mindfulness, individuals learn to observe their negative thoughts without automatically reacting to them, thus breaking the cycle of reactivation that can lead to depression. Okay, this is important. So everyone has difficult thoughts. Everyone has these patterns, these memories, these thought processes that are painful or difficult. The problem is, how much does someone believe them? How much is someone invested in those thoughts? How much does someone identify with them? So, someone who suffers from depression, they have a difficult thought about themselves and they are deeply invested in it. It must be true because I am thinking it. Whereas somebody who doesn't suffer from depression, they might have the same difficult thought, but they don't buy into it. They just observe it. They just watch it and say, there's that thought, and it's, there's lots of thoughts, and that's just one of them. And I don't need to believe that one. I don't need to let it rule my life. I don't need that to be the driver of my life. So this is an important piece. So what mindfulness teaches us is not to be reactive, not to react, but to respond, not to hold on to something, but to allow. So this is where mindfulness becomes very important. It cultivates a capacity or an awareness state to be with our experience without having to identify with it. And this is the sort of modern interpretation of mindfulness, but this ties into sort of thousands of years of mindfulness understanding. So, and this is also coupled with low mood. You can imagine, when your stomach is tight and you're feeling tired and you're a little bit sensitive and you're unhappy, and then you have those difficult thoughts, we get into this negative feedback loop, this negative reinforcement cycle. So then the thoughts, those difficult thoughts, seem much more believable. But in mindfulness, we're learning how to sit with our body, with the experience of being in our sort of difficult gut experience, to notice the difficult thoughts that are sort of interconnected, and just to give a sense of space and allowing, and sometimes just simply not moving, just staying in our meditation. And that's the practice. That's why mindfulness is a practice. The relevance of the differential activation hypothesis in mindfulness-based cognitive therapy lies in the therapy's focus on preventing relapse. By training the mind and understanding the relationship between the mind, body, emotions, and mood, MBCT helps individuals develop a more resilient mental framework. This new approach reduces the likelihood of falling back into old depressive thought patterns, offering a proactive and sustainable path to mental well-being. Basically, you're creating resilience. Through the meditation practice, you're creating a capacity to allow your experience to be as it is, even when it's difficult, that we're not holding on to it or we're not trying to push it away. We're just allowing it to be. And this is what helps to prevent the relapse. And with that, I have to say, comes more joy, more equanimity, more compassion, more pleasure. And these are also very important ingredients, because what's the point in doing all of this if life doesn't become more interesting and more joyful? So those are vital pieces. So in summary, the differential activation hypothesis provides a crucial understanding of why depression can be so recurrent. MBCT leverages this understanding to equip individuals with the tools they need to disrupt these automatic responses, promoting long-term recovery and emotional stability. Okay, mindfulness works. And if you practice these practices, everyone gets these benefits. Okay, so join. So I'm creating this series because I've just launched my website again, and I'm launching lots of mindfulness-based cognitive therapy programs at low cost. So I'm really offering these programs and in a way that has more support than I think anybody else who's offering these programs, because as well as the weekly MBCT practice, we also have 2 meditations a week that you can join, and a community of practitioners that you can connect with. And yeah, and at a cost that I just don't think happens anywhere in the world, because I want to create this community of practitioners that make this long-term commitment to mindfulness beyond the sort of typical now 8-week program. When I started meditation, there was no such thing as an 8-week program. It was you learn to practice, and then you do it for your life. And things have shifted significantly in recent years, but I still prefer that model for myself. So this is what I'm trying to establish here, is people really working on their well-being, not for a week or a month, but over the long term, for a more happy and joyful life. Okay, cool. Hope to see you in class. Check out my website. The links are in the bio.